Hello, everyone. It's Lee Blickley here from HuffPost. Welcome to Build Series. Today, we are joined by a legend of the screen, Sean Bean. Give it up for Sean Bean, everybody. Of course, Sean's known for his beloved roles in movies like Lord of the Rings, and he's been in Game of Thrones. But today, he's here to talk about his new show on Crackle called The Oath, a story about dirty cops, gangs, and secret societies. So let's take a look at the clip.
You're Raven, right? Show me a tattoo.
It's like the family I never had.
Everyone on the ground now!
We've identified a dozen organized police gangs within your department. I know all about the Ravens.
How do I know he ain't a cop?
We're all cops. Everybody deserves a second chance.
Welcome, Sean Bean, everybody, to the Build stage.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all.
Well, one does not simply get to interview Sean Bean every day, so I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speaking of Bean, Mr. Bean, I always think about that. You're actually the Mr. Bean. Do you ever get, like, fan mail from people thinking you're Mr. Bean?
Yes, just once. I had it about 10 years ago. And it just simply said, Mr. Bean. I thought, oh, it must be for me. And it just said, hi, I wonder if you could send me a picture. I think you're so funny. And you can pull so many different faces. It's like your face is so mouldy and rubbery. I thought this must be for Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson.
This is the wrong Mr. Bean.
But I've never had any since, I'm pleased to say.
Well, after today, you might get some more Mr. Bean fan mail, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I do want to talk about your new Crackle series, The Oath. Congratulations on this. So it debuted on March 8th.
Yes.
So talk to us about why you wanted to get involved in this project. What kind of drew you in?
It was, I've never played a cop before, and so I thought this was quite an interesting cop with a kind of different kind of thought process, and his involvement with gangs and the corruption that was present in the police, and it was based on, or it was inspired rather by a guy called Joe Halpin, who'd served with the South Central LA Police for many years and was actually part of a gang. He was the boss, the head of one of these gangs that were into heavy criminal activity. And I thought that was very interesting, and you know, just as a premise. And I'd worked with one of the directors before, and I think I was very much looking forward to working with the cast, a very kind of diverse range of people. And it was a great story, you know. It was unusual. I thought it was quite unique, and very excited.
So what kind of research did you do? Did you get to talk to that cop and get a sense of what he might have been going through and what your character would be going through?
Yeah, we talked to Joe, and he was always there on hand every day. So if there was anything we particularly were concerned about or wondered what would you do in this situation, Joe? It was great to have him around, you know, as a comfort blanket, especially with the stuff, you know, with weapons and protocol, not so much with the acting.
Yeah. So your character, when we first meet you, Tom Hammond in this, you're in jail. So talk about being, finding out that your character was starting off in that place and what you kind of, look towards to inform your story going forward with The Oath.
I knew I started off in prison, and I knew I survived at the end.
Shocking! You die in everything.
I know.
You were like, yes, I live in this.
Quite unusual for me, that. I kind of did research, but I've always kind of watched documentaries and crime documentaries, and this was just one that was a corrupt gang. The people they were supposed to be protecting and serving they were doing the exact opposite, and actually hand in hand with local criminal fraternities, and I thought that in itself is very interesting. But rather than, it's not so much a show about police corruption. I mean, that's the premise, but it's also about the families and the people that are involved, and how they work and how they clash, how these families clash. I'm not very happy with my two sons, especially Ryan's character, Ryan Cranston. And I'm a more old-fashioned, very direct, black and white copper, so I don't understand all this new stuff with the young kids and how they do things. I just say, well, just get rid of them, what are you talking about? He's very black and white, he's very ruthless, man. But he loves his sons, and so, I try to look for the kind of positive sides and the, his good qualities, rather than, because it's pretty evident he's not a good man. But I try to make him at least human,
Yeah, so his sons, which are Steve and Cole, played by Ryan Quanten and Corey Hardrick. So he has an interesting relationship with both. Can you talk about what you guys kind of did to form that father-son bond, since you spend a lot of time in jail and they're kind of out on the streets getting stuff done?
Yeah, I'm just passing messages through, and I'm just coming out and having visiting times, I'm passing on messages to my son, to Corey, and telling him to tell Ryan that he's not doing things right, stuff like that, And so he's still kind of the boss even when he's inside, and he passes on. He passes, regretfully, he passes on power to his son. That he'll follow Ryan's character. They'll follow in his footsteps. But Tom Hammond is not very pleased about the job he's doing, and he thinks he's dilly-dallying and pissing around really. And so he's not happy. He's never really a very happy man. Throughout the show, he's got his ex-wife, and she's suffering from cancer, and that's when you see you see his love for her, and there's a lot of pathos during those scenes, and then I get out and carry on as usual, and so I decide to go against my son, and a vote in the Ravens Club, the gang club, the police gang club. And I say, who's going to vote for me? This, that, whatever. So I go right against him. And in the end, we make friends a little bit.
Yeah. And you live, like you said, so it's all good.
Yeah.
What was it like, though, to spend most of your shoot was probably by yourself or with some supporting actors in jail, when all these other guys were kind of filming in and around Puerto Rico? So what was your experience like? Because you guys did shoot this in Puerto Rico during Hurricane Maria.
Yes, I filmed my scenes before that actually happened, but I was obviously aware of it, and it was very shocking and upsetting, considering that they welcomed us with open arms, and they were a very colourful country, very good people. So that was quite upsetting, but nevertheless they stopped and then they came back to finish. But I was on my own, I guess, because I was in prison for some of it. I wasn't in that long, but I think I was just finishing my sentence. And but then he is a bit of a loner anyway. I get out, and he's a bit of a lone wolf, really. Doesn't trust anyone, really, not even his own sons. Yeah.
So what else about this, program kind of drew you in and brought you in? Are you interested in cop dramas? Because we've seen you a lot in, you do a lot of action films, but you also do a lot of period pieces. So I'm curious how you decide to pick and choose roles based on, well, I've done this before and I want to try something new.
Yeah, as I said, I've never played a cop before. So that was, I thought, I'll play a bank cop. That'd be even more interesting. But this was just edgy, and 50 Cent was behind it. He was, and he gave it some, a lot of credibility, and it was very gratifying, and I was very happy to know he was behind it because I like him and I like his stuff, and he doesn't pull any punches. So that kind of followed that the drama was in a similar vein. And, just to work with actors I've never worked with before, but I've seen them all before, and they're all really good and very naturalistic actors. And just doing the subject matter was kind of fascinating to me, having watched a lot of crime dramas and detectives and stuff like that, and, constantly, which is quite depressing on occasions. But I always find that kind of thing very interesting. What people get away with and what they don't get away with, and how they push the system and and abuse the system in this case. Yeah.
You've been kind of dabbling in more television and miniseries as of late. What is it about television right now that's kind of bringing you to that medium? Because I guess the scripts and the stories are really powerful on TV.
Yes, and you have more time to develop a story. If you're talking about a 10 series, you can't get that kind of material into 1 2-hour, 3-hour film. You've got to. So I give, television gives you the luxury to explore many threads, many people's stories, and how it all comes together in the end. I mean, you take Breaking Bad. I mean, it was just. I watched that and I was just gripped by it, and it was fantastic television. And I think there used to be a taboo about doing television or film, and say, no, I'm a film actor. I don't do TV. But now everybody wants to do TV. You got Meryl Streep and Matthew McConaughey, countless people who are doing really good TV. And the TV has, people want to watch stuff. They can't be fooled now by simple stories that just a different format, a different thing every week. They've got very high standards. Audiences have very high standards. And I guess the TV companies have got more money, and it's a fantastic medium these days. So I'm not really concerned. I like to do films, but I'd rather do a good television piece than an average film.
And you've made some good choices, because even in this show, I noticed, the gang is called the Ravens. And then in one of the opening scenes, one of the bartenders in this says, winter is coming. So it's like they knew that. Did you notice that when you watched it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they
really?
threw that in. He goes, why don't you turn the air conditioning on? And it's really hot in here. And he goes, well, you got to wait. Winter is coming.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? I wasn't there, was I?
But it would have been funny. You talk about television, and everybody here knows that you were on Game of Thrones, and you're the most beloved character, I'd say, right on the show.
Thank you.
When you signed on to do that show, did you know that it would become such a hit? I mean, it's the #1 show across the world on HBO and everywhere.
It was a bit like Lord of the Rings when we all joined in that and we went to New Zealand to film it. We never realised it was such a big thing, and it just snowballed incredibly. And it was the same with Game of Thrones. I'd never heard of it. I read the books subsequently. I read the books, but I'd not really heard of it. We met in a cafe in Soho with one of the writers and producers, and I think they cast myself and Peter Dinklage, and that was about as much as I knew. They kind of explained the story a bit. They did said you might not make it to the second season. I says, what do you mean? So, well, you die. So that's okay. I'm busy anyway. I've got other things after that. So no, but it was all made very clear. But it was such a fantastic character to play. He was one of the very few good men with principles and morals and values in the whole thing, because everybody's backstabbing and poisonous people. And I was just glad to play Ned Stark. I'm very proud of it. And, but I didn't know, that would become, because we didn't know, we did a pilot, and we didn't really know whether it was actually going to go ahead as a proper ongoing thing. So.
Yeah, I remember I even turned it on because I was like, oh, Sean Bean's in this. This is probably going to be a good show. Because you were really the only, biggish name then that was in the show, you and Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
And everyone else was kind of newcomers, and now they're
Yes.
these huge stars.
Yes. And they all had to talk like me in the end because we were doing the read-through and the producers and the writers said, why don't you just keep your own accent? And I says, all right.
Good luck to everybody else.
But then everybody else had to do the same accent from me, from the Stark family, So you got Cockneys coming out, you got, talking like that, So I established the way we speak, as they were.
You still get a lot of fan love from the Game of Thrones fans because your character has basically lived on within every season. You're like the heart of the show, even though you haven't been on since season 1.
Yeah, I guess he was a founding member, wasn't he? And he made quite an impact, and he was an anchor to a lot of people, anchor of goodness, and he's often mentioned, and it's his legacy that lives on, which is a great thing, But,
you still watch this show, or do you keep up with?
I kind of watch it. I think I got my head chopped off in the 9th episode. I stopped watching it then. No, I do. I catch up on it now and again, but I really should get the box sets. My wife, she's not seen it, so I'd like to sit down with her and play them all rather than just catching bits here and there. Because you don't know what's going on.
Live stream that. We all want to watch Ned Stark watch Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the show has. Wait till you see it. I mean, everything has changed from the effects to the the amount of money HBO has put behind it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So, who would you want to end up on the Iron Throne if it was up to you? But I know you haven't watched it, but.
Who's still alive? I don't know.
That's a good place to start. Well, you have Daenerys, you have Jon Snow. Jaime Lannister, Tyrion Lannister, Cersei Lannister. Guys, who's still alive?
I think Jon Snow.
Brienne of Tarth.
Would Jon Snow be a good choice? I don't know.
I think he is a good choice.
Possibly, yeah. I think I'd say Jon Snow. Yeah.
But I don't want to spoil anything for you now because you haven't seen it, so I can't even tell you what happened with Jon Snow last season, right, guys? I mean, we all thought you were his dad.
Well, yeah, I thought that when I was doing it. They didn't tell me. Which is just as well, because I treated him as a son, and that's the way it should be. But no, I didn't know. Everybody kept asking me. I said, I don't know. What do you think? Because that was the idea, wasn't it? It's like, who killed JR? It kept it going and going.
So, Game of Thrones was based on a book, as was Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I think that deserves an applause, too, because... that's another role where you die in the first one, but you're still a very long-lasting legacy within those movies.
Yes. I mean, I think I was in the second one briefly, but that was the kind of extended version. So I don't know if you saw that. I've
watched like 10 times over each. I just love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. God.
What was that experience like, though? That seems like one of those film experiences that you never forget. Something where, you go off to New Zealand with this crew of people and you make these epic fantasy movies that have just had such a long-lasting effect on everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I'd read the book before when I was a kid, and I never really... I kind of understood it, but it was a hard book to read, I think. And the other one, Silmarillion, that's really hard to read. But I never expected it to be the success that it was. I don't think any of us did. Ian McKellen, Viggo Mortensen, we all joined together. We had a great laugh, a great time, and then we knew it was going to be big, pretty big. But it was to say they did a trilogy, and I think it was $300 million for the whole trilogy, which is kind of incredible. So I think they've made quite a bit of money out of that.
A lot of money.
But it was just, then when we'd finished and we started getting publicity and it snowballed, we thought, wow, this is incredible. They're really going for it. But it was great to actually play a character that I'd read when I was a kid, and I remember this character, Boromir, and to think that it was such an honor, such a great thing to be able to put it on film and kind of be Boromir, you know, and now you just think of all these characters as who you see on the film, don't you? Like Gandalf and the Hobbits, and it's like set it in stone, and that's a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
Now I think Amazon's going to bring it back, Lord of the Rings, back to do a series. And Ian
And a
McKellen said, "Well,
television.
you can't hire anybody but me to play Gandalf." Do you feel that way about
Did they?
Boromir?
Well, he never ages, does he, Gandalf, I suppose? I don't know. What would happen there. Aren't they starting a clean slate with everyone?
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
But it's still a cool thing.
But Ian McKellen, yeah, he could pop in and out, couldn't he, when he's not busy?
It's Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
So it's this December will be 15 years since Return of the King came out, which of course won the Oscar for
God.
Best Picture.
Yeah.
Did you get a part in that Oscar, love? You were a big part of the series.
I was over, yeah, for the Fellowship of the Ring, and we went over there, and we went everywhere. We went to Japan and Nice Film Festival, sorry. And we were at the Oscars. I wasn't invited after that because I wasn't in the other two, was I? But I mean, it was it's sensational. You know, really proud. I think everybody was so proud that they'd done 3 major feature films all at once, and they tackled such a difficult subject matter. The book itself. And Peter Jackson was just incredible. It was like he had everything planned. He'd had it planned for years and years and years, and that was it. He did it.
Before I toss it to the audience, I want to know if there's, one role maybe that you would have liked to play, but you never got the chance to play, or one project that you might have said no to that ended up being a smash hit.
I guess there's a few roles that I would have liked to have played, but I missed out on them. And it sometimes gets down to 2 or 3 people. When it's 2 people, and you think, do you think I'm going to get it? You're asking your agent. So, well, it's kind of you're swinging both ways. But sometimes you get it. I mean, I got the part in Patriot Games because Liam Neeson turned down the character that I played, Sean Miller. And so, it usually evens itself out. So I don't really have any regrets. And if you don't get a part, you're disappointed, but not for too long, because there must have been a reason for it. And then you get another part that you didn't expect to get, and you think, wow, that's great,
Yeah, well, you have the resume to just be like, well, I did all this anyway, so.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I'm good. I actually watched Black Death for the first time this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really underrated movie. I think that's
so.
amazing.
Yeah, I do. I thought it was really well shot, and there were some brilliant characters in it, and it was scary and edgy, and it kind of came and went. Really, it did all right, but I'm surprised it didn't do better than it actually did.
I think people should go back and watch it because Eddie Redmayne's in it and Sean Bean.
Yeah.
There are some Game of Thrones people who pop up in that too. If you're missing Game of Thrones, I'd say go watch Black Death because.
Yeah, it is. It's similar, isn't it? Spooky, weird. Yeah, lots of horses and swords.
Yes. Well, I do want to open it up to these lovely people for some questions. So who's first?
Over here. Hi. So I was wondering, even though John Hurt holds the record for most deaths in cinema history, is there? Are you going to try to get the Guinness Book of World Records for most deaths?
I thought I had at one point. Just with Bela Lugosi, and then John Hurt, and then I think I'm not sure if I became top of the table briefly, but then I started playing characters that didn't die. I thought I'm getting a bit typecast here. I'm going to play characters that don't die, and then I realised I dropped down the table. So I said, "Look, I'm going to do films where I die. So I'm going to start. I don't want John Hurt and Bela Lugosi ahead of me."
You're very good at dying. How do you perfect that craft?
Depends what's happening to me, how they're killing me, or how, when I get pulled apart by horses in Black Death. So You can't really practice that kind of thing.
I know, you can't really find an orc and practice the arrows.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Hi. I don't mean to get dark, but since you're known for just dying, if you get to choose how to die, how would you die?
Probably very peacefully in my sleep.
I think you've been through enough.
I mean, as an actor, I don't really mind how I die because I know I'll come back to life again. So, anything.
He's a good sport. Who's next?
Thank you.
Hi.
Hiya.
You mentioned the character in the show is kind of solitary. Did you find that hard to play or easy, and did you connect to that sort of character yourself?
In the Oath?
Yeah, the Oath.
I think there's qualities in all of us, and sometimes some are more kind of prevalent than others. But I think we all have anger and love, sadness, hatred, laughter, kindness. We all have those qualities within us, and it's just a matter of picking which ones might be appropriate for this part. So I picked out a few for this, like anger and psychopathy, but also kindness and. I think you've always got to remember that there's no kind of real bad guys. There's always some quality, or you should certainly try and find some redeeming features, even though what they do is you condemn it and it's awful sometimes. But there's always what makes a character interesting is a quirky kind of gesture of goodwill or some kind of kindness that is shown to others, and that's what makes a bad guy interesting. And because it kind of throws you expect him to be bad all the time, and when you find something that you think, oh, I quite like that, it really kind of plays with your head, which I think it should do, yeah.
Any other questions out here? We're good? Well, what's next for you after The Oath? What other projects have you been deciding to take on?
I'm just doing a project up in Manchester in England. I'm just filming that at the moment. It's called Curfew, and it's slightly set in the future in London, and it's we're living under a police state, and there's a curfew every night, and a lot of it is based around cars. This fast car race, just mental. And which, the winner is promised, a new life away from this madness that is London. So it's quite scary. Some great characters in it, I wouldn't say it's like Death Race or Escape from New York or Death Race 2000. It's very kind of British in a way, and it's got very quirky and quite funny actually. But there's always this kind of watchful eye that's watching everybody, and things are really falling to pieces. I mean, it'll probably look a lot better than I'm describing it when it comes on.
Sounds great.
But it's and the director he directed Peaky Blinders, so he's Colm McCarthy, so he's on the ball. It's got people like Billy Zane's in it. He's playing this crazy driver with his and
I've been wondering where Billy Zane is.
Yeah,
Now
I met him
know.
the other night. He's a nice guy. Yeah.
Well, you had me at watchful eye, so I'm in.
Yeah.
So The Oath is now on Crackle, and it's streaming all of the episodes, all 10 episodes. So make sure you guys check it out. And thank you so much for being here, Mr.
Thank
Bean.
you, Lee.
We loved having you.
Thanks very much.